Good evening. Good evening. This is Afi Kingdom. Today I have a special guest. We're going to talk about the game, talking about some wrestling stuff, mindset stuff, and everything in between. Let me bring my co-host on, and then I'm gonna let my guest introduce himself.
Hey, what's good? What's good, everybody? Appreciate you for having me on. I go by the name of AV, aka Alpha Villains. Make sure you guys check out my YouTube channels, Mr. Weekday Mornings and Alpha Villains on Instagram, Alpha Villains on YouTube. Looking forward to
Cool,
this
cool,
conversation. Let's go.
cool. And our guest of the hour, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. My name's Paul Bauer. I'm the host of the Come On Man podcast. I have episodes on YouTube and Spotify every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings.
Cool, cool. First things first, I want to ask that I didn't get a chance. How was the thing with Glenn? Let's talk about that real quick. Cause did it ever come out? Cause I got the pay-per-view. I don't know. Did it ever drop or no?
Glenn's still editing it, and I'll just give you some background on it. I can't give away any spoilers because people are gonna have to watch the pay per view.
Yeah.
But everything went to crap when I got to Vegas. Right,
Mhm.
Glenn had lined up a booking with a company called Big Valley Wrestling, and they pulled the literal ring out from under us last minute. They said that our content is too controversial, so they didn't want to be a part of it. And so they pulled out. So Glenn was scrambling to try to find a venue for us to do the match in.
Mhm.
And last minute, literally after I got to Vegas, I still had no idea what the plan was because
Mhm.
Glenn was still trying to figure it out. And so he managed to finagle a boxing ring at a local boxing gym. Um, and so that was last minute. Then like his camera crew, they all backed out last minute. They all found better jobs. Bunch of people that were supposed to show up to be in the crowd, they all backed out last minute. So it was all just like a big scramble after I got there. And so when we got there, we did find some people to help film, but they weren't like trained cameramen.
Mm,
So although Glenn's a really good director, and he directed it like a movie, like a movie fight scene. And Glenn has experience as a Hollywood stuntman doing that sort of thing. He
Mhm.
directed them, but it's just it wasn't that professional. So now Glenn in post has to go through and edit it and add effects and clean it up
I'll
to
shit up
make
a
it
little bit.
to make it look like it's worth the money that we're
Sure.
charging. So he said it should be out here in November sometime.
Cool, cool, cool.
Nice.
AV was gonna say something.
Nah, nah. I mean, I think it's a good teachable lesson or moment for you guys where kind of like in this community we always talk about accountability, making sure that guys follow through with what they say, and it's good that you guys were able to pivot. You and Glenn delivered on what you guys promised everybody. I'm sure everybody's eager to see who won the match. You guys are talking a lot of shit on social media, so pretty cool, man. I feel like it gave you guys an opportunity to, even though we're men, we're striving to become better and be examples. I think it's very important for us to also sometimes not take ourselves so goddamn seriously, right?
Yeah,
Because
facts.
masculinity and dating and all this shit, we've really we've taken the fun out of becoming the best versions of ourselves. And a lot of it has to do with, name calling and finger pointing and, social media, the girls, all this shit. But I like the fact that you guys were able to do that. Hopefully that will inspire other people to kind of just um not take this thing so goddamn seriously, and show that, there's more things to life about being a man than just hating women or just talking about women. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, really the inspiration I think behind it was that there's a lot of dumb beefs in the manosphere.
Facts.
Yeah.
There's so many people that hate each other for whatever reason. They get in these stupid, internet squabbles. They challenge each other to boxing matches that they never actually
Right,
follow through on.
right, right.
And
Right.
so Glenn just got this idea because he knows I'm a pro wrestling fan. He's like, "What if we did this but spoofed it and made it about pro wrestling?" And I was like, done. Say less, man.
Yeah,
I've waited my whole life for this moment. Let's do this.
Right.
that's what's up. So Paul, let's rewind and go back. I want to know, like, for one, what inspired you to make content and who inspired you? Let's start there.
Oh, that's a good question. So my journey is a little bit, I think, different than y'all's journey. Especially after talking to you, Afi. Like I was always pretty good in high school, with, getting girlfriends and stuff like that. But I was always just looking for that white picket fence, like every girlfriend I had, I literally looked at her like, okay, she's the one. She's going to be my wife. Right. And, so I had girlfriends like all, pretty much all through elementary school. I had little girlfriends. Right. And then in high school, lost my virginity in high school. I had 2 major relationships, and I say major relationships. They were like 6 months or 7 months. That was a big deal back then. And then, I had some flings and stuff after I got out of high school and went in the Navy. And then I met my now ex-wife. And I mean, just like literally every type of relationship I got into, it was, okay, let's do this. Let's get married and have kids. Right. So I got married when I was 20 years old. Yeah, I got married when I was 20 years old. Wasn't even old enough to buy liquor at the wedding reception. And she was 3 years older than me. So she had to buy all the alcohol and stuff. And we ended up being together for 14 years. We have 2 kids, and yeah, about 10 years ago now, she filed for divorce. We all moved back to Colorado, and that was a part of her exit strategy. And she sort of blindsided me with the divorce. But in hindsight, it was a blessing, because I fucking hated her guts. Like we were married for 14 years, but the last 7, I just did not like her. I didn't like being around her. Her personality was trash. She was a manipulator. She would make friends really easily with people and then use them, and they would see her for how she was. And she would lose friends all the time. And it was always, people are mean to me. People are mean to me. Right. So getting out of that relationship
sounds like.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't like calling everybody narcissists, because I think that word's overused. But yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah.
It seemed like it's accurate for this one, though.
Oh, definitely. And so I got out of that relationship. I was like 50 pounds overweight, because I just let myself go. A lot of guys, I think, fall into this trap where they're like, I already got her, I don't have to try anymore, right? And they just let themselves go. So I floundered, dude. I got back out on the dating circuit, and I was like, I couldn't get a date, or I would get maybe 1 or 2 dates, but chicks didn't want to stick around for a second date. And It wasn't until like 11 months after we separated that I met this girl that I call Red Pill Chick. And she was she was a little bit of a chubby chaser, I think. And so she just like, she wanted to bang on the first date, and I was like, I'm in love. And so I got into this relationship immediately with this chick for 4.5 years. And when that ended in 2019. When that ended, I was in really good shape. I had lost all the weight, and I was, an avid runner, and I would go to the gym all the time. And so when I found myself on the dating circuit that time, it was easy getting dates. It was easy hooking up, but I couldn't keep chicks around very long, because I was still that guy trying to push for a relationship. Like, what are we? Like, I'm on the second date going, so are we exclusive? Like a fucking idiot, And I was like, what is going wrong? And the blessing of that relationship was that chick was really into self-help and audiobooks, and she got me hooked on audiobooks, and I was like, I bet you there's some books out there that can help me straighten my shit out, right? And so I found books like No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. I read a book called The System by a guy named Doc Love, and that led me to a guy named Corey Wayne. You guys might be familiar with Corey Wayne.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I read I read Corey Wayne's book. I read Atomic Attraction, and then Dr. Glover has a second book called Dating Essentials for Men. And Atomic Attraction, How to Be a 3% Man by Corey Wayne, and Dating Essentials for Men, those became like my holy trinity of books. And I just would read them on or listen to them on repeat. And then as I was listening to them, I was going out and practicing this stuff, and I realized that everything I'd been doing my whole life when it came to women was wrong. Like it was easy getting the dates and stuff and getting girls to hook up, but it was like, I was super needy, I was super needy. And I realized that goes against women's nature. And so I realized what I was doing wrong. I learned the concept of spinning plates. So I started dating multiple women, and I used to think that was hard, but actually that makes dating infinitely easier.
Sure.
And so I started dating multiple women, and during that process, I found myself in a men's group on Facebook called the 3% Man Group. And it was just a group of fellow students of Corey Wayne stuff. And out of that group, I started my podcast. And the initial podcast started off with me just interviewing other guys in the group, and I just like the idea of picking other guys' brains and seeing what worked for them, what didn't, sort of swapping notes. And really, if you get down to it, that's what Red Pill is. It's guys all over the world just getting together in forums and stuff saying, hey, this worked on this chick. This didn't work on this chick, and everyone's just trying stuff out and seeing what sticks to the wall,
Right.
So yeah, that's how I started out.
Cool. I know I wanted to ask a question and you kind of answered it, and I'm glad you did. And that question was, basically a lot of guys like you hear in the spear, and they blame the woman all the time. And I feel like guys don't take accountability of the shit that they fuck up on. Because even for me, every relationship that I was in that a woman broke up with me at the time, I wanted their ass back or I wanted to keep them. But looking back in retrospect, I understand why the woman was doing the shit that she was doing. Every last one. There's never a situation where I was like, what was wrong with her? Like I know what was wrong. Maybe at the time, but just in just certain things. Like I always say, like for me, the simplest thing that I've ever done. We all got our shit, and I'm gonna just tell the story quickly, just because it's kind of funny, but the mindset behind it was totally different. So the most simplest thing, in my opinion, that I've done is go to a woman's job and shit to check her. Now the thing about it is, in my mind, I'm thinking it's some bullshit because so basically me and the girl was getting into it and she got to hang it up in my face not answering the phone. So my vibe is like, hey bitch, I'm finna come embarrass you. Like you not done talking to me when you say so. So it wasn't even so that was the mindset. But then uh moving forward and looking back, man, I let her control my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So I had to teach myself, like, but so my mindset wasn't even like, "Oh, I love you." It's just like, "Hey, bitch, you got me fucked up. You think you're just gonna like hang up in my face and then I gotta wait and see until you ready?" Nah, fuck that. I'm pulling up. So that was my vibe. But then, like I say, when the shit happened, it's just like, damn, man, like I should have just been able to walk away and let her chase me. That type of vibe. You know what I mean? Hey, Billy,
Yeah.
I see your mind going around in circles. What's going on, my man?
No. I'm just two things I wanted to say just to piggyback off what you said and then what Paul said.
Yeah,
I think that's what they call not gaslighting, shit testing,
yeah.
right? And shit testing, and basically she was just shit testing you to see how far she could take it, and whatever you react to the most, that's what she knows she got you. So I think that's where a lot of guys kind of get it wrong. Men are relatively simple. What we have to do to become men is more complicated, but we're relatively simple. And I think once women kind of figure out your hot buttons and shit, they like to press them to see, oh, I can fuck with him this way, I can fuck with him this way. And I think men need to understand and be reminded that we have to teach people how to treat us, right? So if you carry yourself with respect, you work out, you do your thing, you know what I mean? You're cool. People should respect that. Now, if they don't, then you got to check them accordingly. But something that Paul said, which was extremely important, and I think this is what kind of separates him from a lot of people, I'm sure you guys that you coach, Paul, is that you said that you took the initiative to buy books, you took the initiative to do research, and then you started to apply the theory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we just talked about beef and the silly ass beefs and shit on this manosphere shit. Cool. The point is, a lot of people call it a theory, a praxeology, whatever, right? But at least you took it upon yourself to see, let me see if this shit works or not, right? And that's a testament to really wanting it or not. That's what qualifies you to get on this microphone and say some shit because you've been there. You did the simp thing. We all have, but at least you did something about it. A lot of guys use our platforms and our shows as pacifiers and blankets, and there's a very fine line between keeping them on the teat, right? Like a drug dealer. Let's give them the shit so we can keep coming back. I get that business mindset too, but for me in particular, I would love to see men do a little bit more thinking for themselves, because there's a certain type of proud feeling that you have when a student or a person that you coach or even a child, you told them to do some shit and they were like, look, you were right. Or they DM you or say, Paul, man, you saved my life. You saved my life. And I think if men did a lot more application to the shit that we say, man, we could talk about other things because there's a lot more layers to me, Afi, and I'm pretty sure to you, Paul, besides female nature. So I commend you on that, man. A lot more guys need to do their own thing after they listen to a show like yours. You know what I'm saying?
Let me unpack something. And I got something for you, AV, real quick, and then I'm gonna ask Paul the same thing. What's just for the audience? What's some sim shit that you did that you really learned a major thing
Oh
from?
my
You know what I
gosh.
mean?
I'm always saying talking about these things. Yeah, man. Simpish things. I mean, you know, let's see. Like I used to like go to the like my girl's house and shit, and she would say that she wasn't home. I mean, she's been home all day. I would drive by and touch the hood of the car to see if it was still hot. You know what I mean? Do the silly ass drive-bys, or I would embarrass myself and her, but in turn wind up apologizing anyway because I was too drunk. I got liquid courage. I got jealous. So a lot of simpish things, but I guess the biggest thing for me was tolerating disrespect in the sense where I combated the disrespect with over disrespecting her. I've said this numerous times on my show. So the bitch is disrespectful. I'm like, oh yeah, bitch, I'll be even more disrespectful. And I felt that I was winning because I was out disrespecting her as opposed to having a zero tolerance policy for disrespect. And I had to learn that the hard way because when you mix feelings in and love and history and, it's like, okay. But at the end of the day, circle back with respecting yourself. It takes a long time. It took a long time for me to respect myself. So all that hard work, I have to constantly remind myself. So if somebody or a woman in particular disrespects me, I have to have a zero tolerance policy. And a lot of guys feel like they overreact on something that's small that can snowball. But
Right.
if you got a zero tolerance policy, bro, do not tolerate any disrespect.
Yeah, man. Real quick, Paul, before you break your shit down, because I gotta tell these, because these young cats, one of the stupidest shits that I ever did too, and you players do never do this, is like when a girl don't want to fuck with you, you cannot bring it back via text message, bro. Stupidest shit I've ever done is really thinking that I had the right things to say, like, "Ooh, I'm gonna hit her with this." Like, no, bro. When she's like not fucking with you, you gotta like give it that space. You cannot, oh well, I feel like this and this. Like she ain't reading the shit the way that you feel like, oh, I'm gonna tell her how I feel. Yeah, this is the
Right.
wrong time for that though. You do never want to tell a woman how you feel when she don't want to fuck with you, bro, because it's gonna be repulsive. So
Right.
I just had to throw that in there. But what you got, Paul?
I was gonna say, well, two things on that one. That was one thing that I learned in the book Atomic Attraction is like if as attraction grows in space, and if a woman's like pulling away, this and Corey Wayne's book, because Corey talks about women like they're cats, right? If the girl's pulling away from you, the worst thing you can do is chase her. You actually you got to think of it like there's a line between you and her, and you want to keep that taut. You want to keep that line tense, right? That tension creates what I like to call heat. Healthy emotional anticipation and tension. And if you chase her, that line goes slack, and that attraction goes away.
Right.
So yeah, it's like, and they are like cats. If you chase a cat, they're gonna run away. But if you sit around and act like you don't give a shit about that cat's gonna show you its asshole.
Right.
So but the simpiest thing that I did was with Red Pill chick, right? Because she was the first chick that showed the slightest bit of interest in me after the divorce. I thought I was going to reward her by I bought that bitch flowers every month for the entire 4.5 years. I had it sent to her work so that all the other ladies in the in the office would get jealous, and I was just trying to get those brownie points. It's what we call a covert contract. I was trying to do this, expecting, the attaboy and shit like that. It's like that. It's not how it works. My current girl is I call her Nurse Chick on my show. Nurse Chick. I have never bought her flowers at all. I don't do that. I don't do that with her. But I realize that flowers are meaningless. They're meaningless at the end of the day.
It sucks, man, that it's been said that men are the true romantics, and I agree with that. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with buying a woman flowers, but it's unfortunate that a form of a gesture, a nice gesture. I was thinking about you and shit. You suck my dick really good. Whatever you want to give flowers and shit. It backfires against you, man. It's unfortunate, and I think a lot of us growing up, who kind of came to this space one way or another, we never got any context, right? So like, don't buy a girl flowers because of this, and then Because so we keep doing it. So we say, well, maybe she's the wrong bitch. Maybe she doesn't like fucking lilies, right? So let me get it for the next bitch. Let me get her sunflowers, and she doesn't like the flowers. So now we start to become bitter, and then we don't have any balance. So now we're like, fuck, we're not doing nothing romantic anymore. Now we just wind up being, redhead meathead guy and shit, where we're just tough and shit. We're always stoic. So it's very important that we live and learn. Everybody has talked about a situation where we've been quote unquote simpish, but the flower thing is so real, bro. Like for me too. Like I used to, don't get it twisted, but I always knew that when you buy a woman a flower, she's pretty much doing it so she could show off in front of her friends or make her ex jealous. It's not really for you, because I could get you flowers and it'll be ready at the house. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it is. Crazy.
For me, man, like the shit that I do for women is it's okay. Let me unpack it like this. The shit that I do for women is for the woman. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, like some guys will do things for a woman, but it's really for themselves. You feel me? Like they want to get a they want to get a girl a Gucci purse, not because she necessarily asked, but they want to do it for themselves to show that they that type of guy and they can afford to, or look at how
Mm,
high status I am, or things of that nature. Like for me, like the for me, I'm a flower guy, but I only will give the women the flowers from the women who want the flowers. See, some guys
right.
would just whip that shit out on the first date, like the fucking meme that's going around. Like Fredo, bro. Let me tell you something. That shit was bullshit, bro. That's only gonna work. That only works in fantasy world, right? And the
The
thing
date,
is
right.
yeah, but he had all this shit like who had the flowers ready, make sure you
Yeah, he
on
did that on
time,
purpose.
make
Come
it,
on.
so it's just like, but you got some clout and you a sexy man. So women, so that's but that's what I'm saying. Like, so people see this is what I'm saying. So people were looking at that like he's simping, but really that's finesse game. He's feeding a fantasy to these hoes. But see, you gotta be on the level of game to understand that. Because it's the same guy that be in his drawers with no shirt. So he's feeding those bitches that fantasy. So y'all be thinking, no, he don't know what he talking about. Yeah, he's doing something else. Right?
Right.
So even like with the flowers and shit, like a woman or flowers or just like I speak about the languages, the love languages, because that's to me that's the most important part of the game because you like dudes will spend money on a chick, and if they doing it for themselves because that woman she want the
Right.
time. You got to understand
Right.
what she want to in order to kind of give her that, but not what you want. Like if you, I take my woman out to 5-star dinners every night. Well, nigga, she wants you to cook for her every night. You ain't even ask her what she likes. So you just present the shit that you think that has value. So you know,
Very important. Just like what Paul said too. He's never bought his current girlfriend, nurse chick, flowers. But he knows what he can do for her, that whatever, however he decides to reward her, show a nice gesture. But like what Afi said, you have to know the woman that you're courting. You have to know the woman that you're going to, take to the next level, I guess, settle down with, whatever, and know her love language, or know at least what she's receptive to. Like you said, Paul could buy the nurse chick a flower, and that's not really her thing. She doesn't really care about that shit. Maybe she wants to go on a motorcycle ride. You know what I'm saying? Like she wants to do some.
mm.
So
She
you
does
live
like
and
that,
learn.
yeah.
Right, exactly. So yeah.
Let me unpack something. And this I got this actually from AV's last podcast. So shout out to you because we talked about this yesterday, and I want to know what Paul's thoughts of it is. And basically, um, Derek, with the guy, um,
Relentless attitude, Derek Simmons.
relentless attitude. He was the one on there, and what he said was, when you date and you get into a relationship, the girl has to come out of your rotation. And I thought about that, like, yeah, she kind of does. But so, what do you think about that? Are you the type of guy who you just kind of have that, or like, what is it? What is it from you? Like, how does a woman earn the relationship out of you? That's what I'm trying to ask. What does she have to do, or is it just like you just date and okay, we're dating, she made it or not? Like, so do you have it like that, or either way?
Well, so the way, I mean, guys, guys need to do what's best for them, right? And
Hmm.
Boom.
and so some guys, they want to be permanent plate spinners, and like that's awesome, do that. For me, I actually do like having a steady girl.
Sure.
It's convenient. It's convenient as hell.
Sure.
It's so when I was spinning plates, the way I did it very strategically, and I learned this from both Corey and Dr. Glover. But you basically make a list of all the qualities you want in a woman, and on one side of a piece of paper, and then on the other paper, stuff you won't tolerate. Right. So a girl cannot raise herself out of plate status unless she meets like all the requirements on the
Gotcha.
must-have list, right? And
Boom.
and so there's like a lot of stuff I want in a relationship, but there was like, things I had highlighted, like this is an absolute must for an LTR. And if she doesn't meet these like 5 things, then it's not going to happen. She's a plate only, right? And so that's really what I was looking for. I would go and spin plates, and I would just sit back and not let my emotions, get involved. I treated every date like a science experiment, and I would just observe. And it's does she match this? Cool. Does she match this? Cool. And if there was anything in my do not wants list, it was like red flag, red flag. This is not tolerated. She can only be a plate, or, even if I wanted to keep her around as a plate. So Nurse Chick, she checked every one of the boxes, like, and not just like the top 5. She checked every one of the boxes. That chick is like, she puts in like next level, effort. There's some guys in the space, they have this idea that women are, I don't know, retarded or something, but there's some women that can put in just as much work as guys. Just some don't. A lot of women are lazy, but a lot of men are lazy too, so Nurse Chick, she does just as much reading on relationships and how to put effort in as I do. And she actually reads all the same books that I read. She listens to the podcast and turns around and reads all the books, and then figures out how to apply it to her circumstance to be a better girlfriend, So she's
very
just
important.
She's just always putting in effort, and so she's like earned her spot. That's really what it comes down to, is she's earned the spot.
And out of curiosity, how'd you meet her? In person, dating app, cold approach? What was your?
I met her on dating app. I met her on Match.com. Yeah.
Hey, I be telling guys Match.com is better because the women over there be more serious. Tinder chicks, sometimes they just be wanting the validation. But Match, they be wanting a date at least.
Yeah. Yeah. I met Red Pill Chick on Tinder, and we dated for 4.5 years. So, but Match, and like you have to pay money to be on Match, so there's skin in the game. So yeah, a lot of chicks on Match are pretty serious. So I live out in the middle of nowhere. I live out in cow country, and so all the women are an hour away in Grand Junction, or they're an hour away in Montrose. So cold approaching it was not really feasible. A social circle game, not really feasible. So it was really, you have dating apps or social media game. That's really what you have to do when you're in rural middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
I got a yeah. Let me just say this one, AV, then I'm gonna just pass it to you. This is because this is controversial, Paul, and I don't know how old you are, but I assume you're at least 35, right? So
I'm 44, but thank you.
Okay. Matter of fact, AV, I like the beard too. It make you look younger too. I see you scaled it down.
Yeah. Trying to stay put.
Yeah. So this is what I want to ask you, since we're all older guys. On the internet they be saying like you shouldn't date women with kids and all of that, but then when you're kind of older, women are gonna fucking have kids. So what do you think about that? Is that a deal breaker for you when you meet a girl like she got a kid? That means play only, or how do you go about that being an older guy?
For me,
yeah,
I prefer single moms. Honestly,
I like that.
Because I'm a single dad, right? I'm a single dad. I have 50-50 custody of my kids, so I have them half the time. And chicks that don't have kids, they have a hard time with that. They have a hard time saying, "Oh, you can only see me every other week," like that. That doesn't work out for a lot of chicks. But if you have a single mom who's on the same parenting schedule as you, like that works out great for both of you. You go and have your time with your kids. I have my time with my kids. And then we come together on the weeks when we don't have our kids. That works out perfectly. I think it doesn't work if your parenting schedules don't line up. I don't think it works if she has sole custody of her kids and she's got to find babysitters all the time. That doesn't work.
Right.
And then I also really firmly believe in setting that boundary that you're not going to parent her kids and that she's not going to parent your kids. And if you set that boundary and she's cool with it and you're cool with it, then it can work out great.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. And that's a mature answer. A lot of the audience has to wait to get to appreciate what you just said, but you guys can rewind the video. I have a very important question for you as well. You said that your lady immerses herself into the content, into your content. She immerses herself in the book, which is awesome. A lot of men, and I don't blame them, are embarrassed to let their girls hear what they're listening to because they feel like they're gonna have an edge and shit like that. Do you think that women who listen to our type of content, right? Do you think that why don't you think that more women are receptive to this type of content? You know, especially with you being in a relationship with a woman who's kind of like encouraging it, kind of wants to get into the psyche of what the hell's going on. Why don't you think women are receptive to it?
Well, I think, you know, a lot of the content, especially on the red pill side of the space, it's not very flattering to women. It, you know, comes across very, very negative towards women, but it's just women's nature, you know?
Right.
And if, as long as a woman can get out of her own head for a moment and realize like, no, there's a lot of these women out here that are doing this. You might be the exception to the rule, but
Right.
you know, the exception
Right.
doesn't prove the rule, you know, or
Right.
the exceptions sort of help prove the rule, I guess. But, yeah, I think that's really why women aren't as receptive to it. Now, as far as, you know, my girl listening to it, I sort of came to terms with it early on because I personally don't think that guys should talk about game to women.
Right.
It's the observer effect, right? Once they start observing that the game, then it changes the results of the game. You know,
like that.
And
let's go. Let's
You
go.
got it.
Yeah.
Let's
go, Paul. Let's go.
but if you're in the space, like if you're doing this, you're making money on it, this is a part of what you do, like your girl's got to be on board with it. You know, she's got to be on board with it, or she needs to get stepping because this is what you do, you know.
Right.
Hey, that's good that you mentioned that too, because I always tell guys, and shout out to Donovan. He the one who first told me that. I was on a webinar with him years ago, and one thing that he said is you can't have a successful rotation and build a successful YouTube channel at the same time. Yep, and that stuck with me. That stuck with me, and that's when I stopped because it's just like because the thing is, Paul, is like people don't understand. It's hard for people to understand this that don't do it. Like you can break it down for them to a T, but unless you do this shit in this lifestyle, and like as you know, in AV, and we all know, like this shit is hard. But sometimes we're having a good time, and people look at it, they think it's easy. They don't understand like the background and shit. And so for like women, you know, I lost my last relationship because of YouTube, because I was dating her before YouTube, and then I got passionate about YouTube, and it became more important than her, and to the point where it was like very fucking obvious, not even a debate, you know what I'm saying? So, and then she just became very condescending, like, oh, we gotta make plans, or you gotta have a consultation. Like, bitch, shut up, man. I'm not trying to hear that shit, but you know, it's that. So you got to really have somebody who understands the grind, because it's definitely not like having a 9 to 5, and especially if you're like a person who, you know, like a AMS type of guy. He just does the shit himself over and over and over again. But if you're a guy who actually collaborates, holds panels, shit like that, you got to source and do all these things, man. And you know, so it's difficult. So you actually really need a supportive woman. Like if I didn't have a supportive woman, I had some bitch, it'll fuck with my content. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I made that mistake early on in the podcast. I was dating a gal. I only dated her for like 3 months. I call her Marine Corps chick. And Marine Corps chick, I actually had her on the show a couple times, and she would just, you know, she started hearing about this stuff. She started looking at, you know, guys like Rollo, you know, and she would just start butting heads with me about this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but it works on you. I mean, look at it. Like,
Boom. Right.
You know, but that relationship just, you know, she just wouldn't stop trying to compete with me, you know, and I think that's a big problem. You know, a lot of women that they get into their masculine and they're trying to compete with you, like that's just not going to work out long term, you know. And so I realized this isn't going to work out. So it was like the week before Christmas, I was like, hey, we're gonna have to break up.
Right. Perfect timing. Right.
Yeah. Cold hearted.
Let me ask you this: do you find it, not you in particular, but do you think that being quote unquote red pill can coexist with being, you know, just with a woman, right? Because, you know, sometimes guys, you know, locker room talk, we talk, you know, we use the glossary terms, we talk because we understand one another. But do you think there's a disconnect with congruency? And I'm not talking about the big YouTubers, right? I'm just talking about guys who listen to this shit. Do you think they're the same? That is it possible for them to be the same, super chatting you, and be the same guy that's on a date? Or do you think there's a difference? There's like, you can't do both at the same time.
Oh, I think you absolutely can be red pill and be successful. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one misconception I had about red pill was when I first got into this, I thought it was like dudes hating women. I thought it was
Hmm.
just women bashing and stuff like that. I realized that's more black pill
Right.
MGTOW
My,
type
my,
stuff.
my introduction was MGTOW, bro. That's the first thing I seen was MGTOW content.
Yeah, yeah, and so, but a lot of the MGTOW content, they brand themselves as red pill.
Right.
And it
Right.
wasn't until I talked to a guy named Paul Benjamin from Apex Mindset. I don't
We
know if
know
you guys
Paul.
do.
Shout out to
Okay.
Apex. Hmm.
Yeah, Paul's awesome. So I talked to Paul, and he really changed my mind about it. And then I talked to Rollo, and I talked to Ryan Stone, and it was after Ryan Stone's interview that I had with him that it cemented in my mind. Like, look, you could be however you want. You can be in a monogamous relationship. You can spin plates forever, whatever. It's all about your mental point of origin, what's right for you.
Right.
And then all this stuff is these are just tools. These are just tools in a toolbox that you can use to apply to a relationship or to just dating in general or to whatever. There's a tool
Precisely.
for that. There's a tool for that. And so that's all it is. It's just guys swapping notes and sharing tools with each other. And what you do with those tools is up to you.
Hmm.
Right.
know?
Right. Absolutely.
How was it working with the guys on Rule Zero? Was that something that you was inspired to do? Did that opportunity to just come about, or like were you a viewer first, or how did that come about?
I was a viewer first, and
Mhm.
you and I are sort of on this woo woo manifestation stuff, Alfie. Like I'm a big
Mhm.
law of attraction guy, and
Yeah.
I have a goal board over here off to the side. You can't see it, but I had it on there. Rule Zero guest, and
That's awesome.
I was like going to make this happen. I was focusing on it, and one of the things I
I'm
teach
gonna
guys. I
see
have a
one of my
lot of
books right now. I forgot. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna do it right. I'm just talking out loud. Like, yeah, I
oh,
forgot to do that.
okay, but yeah, so I have a law of attraction course, and one of the things I talk about this story in the course, and one of the things that you'll find with law of attraction is like when you're focused on something, you got a goal and you believe that it's going to happen. It doesn't necessarily magically happen, but you'll get like ideas, like, oh, I need to do this, I need to talk to this person, I need to reach out to this person, and so I started following all the guys on Rule Zero, and I started going into their live streams. And then I started super chatting them. I was like, oh, if I send a super chat, they're going to bring it up on the screen. That's
Right.
going to be, advertising for my podcast. That's going to
Right.
get into their consciousness of like, hey, there's this guy. He's always super
Precisely.
chatting me.
Yep.
And I think what really cemented it was Rollo's last book, The Player's Handbook, which is really good. I read that. And one of the things I noticed in that book that just popped out at me was that he had 49 maxims in there, 49 maxims of game. And I was like, you know what? This dude's got a list he's making throughout this book. I could do a TikTok series on this. And so I started doing a TikTok series on every maxim, and I would tag Rollo in each one, right? And it was like after that series was done, he invited me not only to be on Rule Zero, because my only goal was to be a guest. He invited me to be on the panel, and I hosted my first interview or my first episode.
Nice.
So
It's
yeah,
awesome, man.
this stuff happens, but you gotta do action. It doesn't just work with magical things.
Precisely. Right. It's
One
awesome.
thing I would say, and I know we can all agree on, is watching this shit is one thing, but when you start doing it, it changes your perception of all of it. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Like
Mhm.
it's just a totally different ball game, and it's to me, it's just funny how sometimes guys have their deep opinions on shit, and it's like, man, would you say AV behind the curtain is a whole
Oh
different
man. Yeah.
ball game?
Absolutely.
It's a whole different ball game. What? Oh, go ahead, AV.
No.
Oh, okay.
It's just, the congruency, doing this and, just being here that we can all say that it definitely has changed our lens on so many things. I can't watch a movie with a woman without ruining and picking apart the goddamn all nuances and all the red pill shit that we all know behind the scenes. I'm fucking up the show for her. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm sure. You know what I mean? Let me
I've
just
done
watch
it.
the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's very important. Like these conversations are extremely important because everything, the common theme, Paul, with everything that you said is action. It's not
Mhm.
going to just happen magically. You know what I mean? We believe in manifestation and working towards our goal, but if you do believe in something, a higher power, God won't help anybody who won't help himself, right? So if you don't appreciate your blessings or work towards something, you're not ready for new blessings, right? So at the end of the day, law of attraction and doing thing is one part of the equation, but the action meeting towards that is very important. And just listening to us, you guys are so lucky because we're all in the 40 club. We didn't have all this information. We had encyclopedias. As a matter of fact, I just called my mother the other day and told her, don't throw away the encyclopedias because I want them. She's in New York.
Yeah.
I said, save them for me, the Britannica, the white ones, because they're rewriting shit. But action, guys, listen to Paul, listen to Afi, listen to me, man, and just apply action towards it, and you'll see how much your life will change. Sorry, man, go ahead.
Let me touch on this so everybody knows who watches my shit knows I'm a big fucking wrestling fan. So, what was your introduction to wrestling, and also what could you tell guys that they could actually learn from watching wrestling? Because I always tell cats like, shit, bro, you tripping. You can learn fucking female nature by watching this fucking shit. People be thinking, that's lame. Okay, well, you can, like I say, you watch an episode of wrestling, you're going to see betrayal, you're going to see hypergamy, you're going to see all types of shit, jealous and just different. You can, if you're a kid watching wrestling, you actually get now that I'm just thinking about this, if you're a kid and you're watching wrestling and you're really watching it for real, studying it like the way that I did, you're getting a preview of real life as an adult. Because see, when you're young, you don't experience heartbreak and betrayal and your friends turning on you and people plotting on you. And see, that shit happens later on. But through the wrestling and shit, you get a preview of it. You know what I'm saying? And you get to see how to articulate yourself and be your best version character. You know what I mean? So touch on that one real quick.
Yeah, well, my intro to wrestling back when I was a kid, my parents didn't have cable, so we had like 4 channels on the TV, and so we had AWA wrestling out here. But I would always hear stuff about Hulk Hogan and WrestleMania, and then they had like Hulk Hogan's cartoon channel when I was a kid, or his show, and so I'd watch that, but I couldn't watch him wrestle because all we had was AWA. But I'd watch AWA and have fun with it, and then like I sort of got out of wrestling, like it wasn't as big for me and a lot of the kids in my school growing up in junior high and high school. It wasn't until I got in the Navy that Attitude Era was really starting to take off. People were starting to get into it. I wasn't quite into it until I got to my ship. And when I lived on my ship, I lived on the USS Shiloh for a while, and every Monday night it was an event. It was an event. All the guys that lived on the ship would get together. We'd go down to McDonald's and buy like 25-cent burgers and just dump them on the table. And we would all just like sit there and watch The Rock and Stone Cold and stuff. And so that's when I really got into it. And then I got married, and my now ex-wife hated wrestling. So we never watched wrestling the whole time I was married. And it was sometime during the when we got separated, that I got my own place. I'm sitting there one night, my kids aren't with me, and I'm alone, because I sucked at dating. And I was like, I wonder what they're doing on wrestling these days. And so I tuned into WWE, and I just was hooked immediately. And then I got really hooked, and I started watching I started watching Impact. I started watching Ring of Honor. I started watching, New Japan. I started watching like indie shows and stuff. I got really into this stuff. And and so that's how I got into it. I've been into it ever since. And, I have like the belts on the wall and stuff, and as far as you're saying, like what you can learn from it, wrestling is a masterclass in psychology. I did a whole stream on this earlier this year, but the whole goal of wrestling and having good guys versus bad guys is to draw an emotion out of the audience. It's to get you in your feels, right? You either want to boo this guy and root for this guy or vice versa. And they do that by using actual psychology. And it's predetermined and they're doing certain moves, but even the moves themselves have a psychology behind them.
Right.
They're like, if this was a real fight, the goal would be to win. So then the wrestlers, knowing that, have to know that it's not just about high spots and moves. They have to, like, if a guy falls down, they have to jump on the guy and try to pin him, because that would be realistic. That's what you would do in a real fight. Right. So, and that's where you can tell, like, when wrestling is bad, when they're all just doing flips and stuff and they're not capitalizing on that. And I learned all that by listening to, podcasts about wrestling, behind the scenes from wrestlers and guys that are in the business. They talk about the psychology of it. And I never even thought about it until I started following the podcast and reading the books about wrestling and stuff and watching documentaries, that it is all 100% about psychology. So you can learn a lot from wrestling.
Yeah, and it's crazy too, man. I enjoyed wrestling as a kid too, and I outgrew it, right? But then hanging out with Afi and just meeting Afi and seeing his passion about wrestling jarred my curiosity. You know what I'm saying? And kind of let me peek back in to see what the fuck's going on. And and doing this podcast and learning about Red Pill and all the shit, the rabbit hole that we're in. It is a masterclass of showmanship, charisma, psychology, and that's what this shit is, man. Whether it's Red Pill, whether it's game, it's all psychology. Because at the end of the day, when we know what makes a man tick, what makes a woman tick, how to get those emotions out of them, you can really pretty much be a puppet master, and you're always in control of a situation that can, you can increase your chances of the situation being in your favor. And that's what I really looked at it. And now that I'm older, and again, Afi's passionate about it, your explanation, it truly is something that you can get something out of and really apply it if you know what to look for and apply in your life, man. It's fucking amazing.
You can also apply it just looking at other shows in the space too. Like when guys are beefing with each other, a lot of that is to get more views, right? Because if I'm talking smack about this show, well, you're going to tune into this guy's show to see what they're going to say about it and get their reaction. Then they talk a bunch of smack that you turn into my show.
Right.
It's like, but behind the scenes, a lot of times the guys are working together, like Glenn and I, right? Like, we're going to get them up in their fields today and talk about this stuff. And it's all clickbait stuff,
And Glenn's a good time. I met him multiple times. I think the last time was in we went to go see New Jack City in LA. That was pretty cool and shit. And
you were the dollar cost crypto, right?
Huh?
You just did the dollar cost crypto.
Oh, no, damn, my bad. Shit. You know what? I was drinking last night, bro. I got low-key headaches. Because I was just about to say that because I'm mad at myself, bro. We got to rewind this shit some back. Because I don't even know how I missed this. You can touch on the military shit, bro. What did that teach you about dating, and what type of crazy shit did you see? Like, I don't know what type of shit goes on. You know what I mean? As far as that stuff, I know you can't say certain stuff, but I'm saying, like, I know you probably seen some wild shit though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, when I was a dumbass. I got married my second year in the military, right? But my first year in the military, I spent a lot of that in boot camp and A school. Dude, A school, man, I hooked up with a couple of chicks in my A school, and both the chicks had boyfriends at the time. Which was, but it's funny. I didn't put two and two together. I didn't like hypergamy wasn't a term in my head. It was just like, hey, I'm getting lucky. I don't give a shit about what these guys are doing.
Right.
That kind of stuff would happen a lot. A lot of guys would go on deployment. You're gone for 6 months. You come back, your girl's 3 months pregnant. Like, how'd that happen? There's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. There's a lot of divorces. There was a chief on my ship. A chief is like senior enlisted. And there was a chief on my ship that lived on the ship because he was going through a divorce, and it was like, it's weird to see chiefs living on the ship, because usually they're either living in their own house or they live in base housing somewhere. They don't live on the ship. That's junior enlisted that live on the ship. But so this chief's living on the ship because he had got kicked out of his own house, from his ex-wife or whatever. And it's that kind of stuff was happening all the time. But it just was something that happened. I didn't really put two and two together at that time.
Gotcha.
Let me ask you this. Now, maybe what y'all may know, but there's a term for this shit. But what is it called? And you can even elaborate if you know. It's something where when you on the ship and then you go different places, and then it's the girls, they just be waiting for you. What's that? They call that something. I've heard different people say this. Like, if you in the Navy and shit, and y'all go to these different places, like it'd be like they be waiting for y'all. Have you heard or seen that, or that's just
where girls are just waiting for you in different ports?
Yeah, like they like the soldiers and shit. And
that happened a lot. Yeah. I don't know if there was a name that we called that. There probably is that that escapes me. But yeah, there's a lot of chicks overseas like sailors. One because
just because you got a uniform, they'll fuck, like that type of shit, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, you and I talked about this, Afi. You know, a problem with guys that are like really big into the passport bro thing. They don't realize this, but a lot of women overseas are just looking for a free ticket back to the U.S.
Let's
So
go.
a lot of chicks in different ports they're happy to sleep with you and get you hooked and stuff so that because guys are emotional and they get stupid. And they're like, oh, I'm going to marry this bitch, right? So they
Right.
do. They marry them and they bring them back to the States, and those chicks rob them blind, you know. So there's a lot of that going on. Yeah, they really do like American sailors. We also have money too. You know, we have good jobs in the military, so they like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I heard some stories, and I remember one of my friends, he was he was in Thailand and he was in Germany, and man, he got booked. I told him you need to write a book, bro, on that shit just alone. He got deployed because I think he was smoking weed or some shit, but
Oh, yeah.
something like that.
We were supposed to go to Thailand when I on my second deployment, but there was a typhoon. We got diverted, so I never
Mhm.
got to go there. But the previous deployment, I showed up halfway through that deployment, so I missed Thailand on that one too. But all the guys were telling me crazy stories, and they had pictures and stuff to show me too, like the girls playing smiles under the table and shit. Like it's a wild place if you want to go visit there.
Yeah. How long have you been in your relationship, your current one right now?
About 2.5 years.
2.5 years. So I'm asking you that. What's your take on marriage? I just was at Donovan Sharp's fucking. That was a fun time. Shout out to Donovan Sharp. So I was just at his fucking wedding. What's your
Yeah.
view on marriage? And if you agree with it and disagree with it, or like what do you think is well, just unpack it all. Just how do you
Yeah.
feel about it in general?
Yeah, I am not a fan of marriage. I think the modern marriage laws are very unfavorable to men, and it's just a bad deal for men in general. There's literally nothing that you can't get out of a long-term relationship, like just a regular LTR that you would get, you know,
Precisely.
signing a contract with the government.
Right.
And if you get Uncle Sam involved in your bedroom, like he gets to choose how you break up. And it's just
Right.
I just think
Yeah.
it's a bad idea in general. But for some guys, like, they're just, that is the end state. That's how it is. So for them, I just say, you know what? Talk to lawyers before you sign anything. Figure out the best possible ways to protect yourself, whether it's like a trust, get prenup. They say, prenups get thrown out all the time, but there's ways of doing prenups smartly. I think a prenup,
Sure.
if you're going to get married, is a good shit test for women to see if they're willing to put the skin in the game or not.
Right.
Because because if they won't sign it, it's like, dude, that should tell you everything you need to know about what's going to happen to you.
Right.
So,
Right.
but yeah, I personally don't like it, but to each their own.
Yeah. That's the mature. That's go ahead for you, my fault.
Oh no, just because I'm not really into it, but I'm gonna just say this. When I seen Donovan get married and how he did it, I said he's making the right decision. I didn't look at him. Me and RP was saying like we think that Devin and him is a match, and I don't think he's tripping. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh
Right.
no, like it just they because they've been together for 7 years, but also when you're dating and you're older and been through shit, it's a whole different vibe than when you're like in college trying to fall in love, or you're like 28 trying to when you just
Precisely.
like you right now, both of y'all. We done both been out in and out of our shit. So if you were to find somebody, especially if they're older, if she done been through her shit too, it's a whole different fucking interaction than just you. How they say it? Like you become high value. You're a six-figure guy, so now you're looking for a bad bitch to marry. It's just different. Hey, I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Let me. Yeah. Yeah. Let me. Yeah. Like Paul said, it's really unnecessary unless there's an end goal. Like you said, you were just at Donovan and Devin's. Shout out to them, their wedding, and we're pretty sure that Donovan did everything in his power to make it favorable for him in the event something should occur. So to each his own. Do what you want to do. But for like Paul is saying, and in general, Afi, the question you're asking, what's the point? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
why? Like, you could do everything. You can co-parent. You can do everything that without involving the state. So what's the point? Like, what do you like? It's 2023. Women don't see relationships the same anymore, even though deep down they still feel it, but they won't show it. So what's the point? You know what I mean? So the married guys will shame guys saying shit like this, and then the unmarried guys that can't manage a relationship or don't want to put in skin in the game will bash marriage. You just have to kind of just see, does it make sense for you? And why are we doing it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's it.
that's the main one. Why are you doing it? Are
Yeah,
you
like
doing it
why?
because you just it's because she's bugging you to fuck out and she keeps
Right,
dropping hints and you're like fuck it, or
right.
do you really want to do
Yeah, but
it?
Like,
whose frame are you operating in then?
precisely.
You have
Yeah,
to
I
question
mean,
that. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting
yeah,
dynamic, man. Like I would say this though, if you've done all the work, you've studied all the stuff, you know game, you know how to maintain a LTR, you know how to lead a relationship, you're probably better equipped than the average guy that's never
precisely.
done any of this shit,
Sure,
So you probably could make it a success, but
sure.
still at the end of the day,
Why?
you could do everything right and still have her leave at the end of the day. So it's like
That's real. That's real.
yeah,
Paul
bro.
spitting real shit. Like this is not. We don't have stats. We don't have numbers. This is real shit. Like sometimes your best isn't good enough. I know a guy right now, man. He's fucking. He's a male unicorn. One of my dudes, and he still can't make. You know what I'm saying? She's still not happy, and and I gotta walk him off the ledge. I'm like, bro, it is what it is, man. So again, does it make sense for you? What's the point? Once you identify those two things, then the decision making process is a little easier.
For me, guys, man, I remember what really like fucked with me about it is my godfather. So he was about 15 years older than me, and he dated a girl. He's a barber, and she was a nurse. Well, she wasn't a nurse yet. She was going to school to be a nurse, and once became a nurse, and then she got in that nurse circle of friends, she started shitting on them and shit. And they had at the time a 5 year old, and they were together for some years. And then that divorce broke him to the point where he wasn't the same. Like it lasted like for like 10 plus years. It took to see him like like that was my first time seeing a broken man in real life.
Mm,
mm,
that's tough, bro.
And he was like so charismatic, cocky, nice dress, boom, boom, boom. But he was always a relationship guy though. He was never a player, but he had that player swag. And once that fucking divorce shit, like he didn't bounce back from it, bro. And I was like, hell no, bro, never me. So that and it hurt me because it's somebody that I care about too. And no talk, no words of wisdom I could have gave him this to bring him out of that shit. Like he stayed. It's like it's almost like he was heartbroken, but he wanted to stay there.
It's comfortable, man. Comfortable. Depression can be comfortable. Overeating, just getting lazy, just chilling, not doing the podcast, just fuck it, just get. It's comfortable, bro. It's like what I mean. It's a comfortable feeling. It's like a pair of jeans. You know what I mean? Worn out, that you just keep fucking can't throw them away. And it's important, bro, for you, like what you just said, man. Like a broken man, like every day, the things that you do, Afi, the things that Paul does. You know what I mean? It's like we are giving people more information to equip themselves to make a decision. There's nothing worse than not making a decision and just kind of being like not knowing. You got to make a decision, but you just don't know which one. Every time they listen to Come On Man podcast, my shit, your shit, it's it's more information to make you feel more comfortable to make a decision like a man. And the
Yeah,
decision that that it may not work, but you're gonna do the work, like Paul said, or it can work, and you could be an example of how taking control of your own life and making shit work for you. That's the beautiful thing about it, because I'm better than I was yesterday. I had a conversation with Afi. I feel good today. Like there's a lot, you know what I'm saying? So this community, even though there's a lot of bad apples, a lot of underrated apples too. This is a valuable space if you come in to get what you think you need, not what I say you need. You need from all of us, and make a life, man. I'm 50
absolutely.
years old. This shit, yo, the clock is running, guys. Trust me. You're in your 40s. All you guys in your 40s. I'm gonna be 50 next year. Every decade, this year flew the fuck by. What's the
Hell
life
yeah.
expectancy of a man? So at the end of the day, learn from us. Okay? Learn from us and take what you can to save time. Because I would do anything to throw back to rewind it 15 years. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I'm writing a book right now. It's actually hopefully it comes out by Christmas.
nice.
It's off with the editor, and it's on everything I wish I knew when I was 18. It's like all this stuff,
Boom.
but not just dating, relationship, like investments,
Nice.
fitness, diet and fitness. Um,
Yeah.
law of attraction stuff, all that kind of stuff's in there. It's like I didn't learn most of that stuff until I hit 35. It was
Right.
after the divorce that I was like, man, what am I doing wrong?
Right. Right.
I
Mhm.
got a book. I'm gonna send it to you. Check. I send you two books. So tell me what you think. But it's two way off. I send you Conversation with the Souls, which is meant to be a movie. So when you listen to it, get in that mode. And then Dominance Mindset of a King, which is a dating book. But the book that you're talking about, I got a book. It's called Keys to Your Crown: Lessons from My Failures. And it's the same
Mm,
sort of thing because just certain shits like real estate, for instance. Like if I was taught the place that I grew up in should be my fucking place. I should have bought the whole fiveplex. Didn't nobody put me on game like that? And just things like getting the pet, how that affects you early, just things of that
Right.
nature. So yeah, and
Right.
that's why I think you already read a book. You'll get a lot of value to it here on my version side of it, man. But we at the hour mark, so I'm gonna check out, man. I had a excellent chop up, positive energy. Um, AV, just say your last words, and then Paul, you'll just let them know where you can find you and what you got coming up. But let me go to AV real quick.
Man, I appreciate you for having me on, man. Paul, it was great meeting you, man. Like Afi said, positive energy. That's what we all about, man. Learn from us, man. But make sure you subscribe to my channel, Alpha Villains, and Mr. Weekday Mornings. Thanks for having me on.
Cool, cool. As for me, make sure y'all follow me on Instagram and follow my book IG too. afi.kingdom.books. Because I'm giving away free books over there because I'm about to release Dominance Mindset of a King 3, Sexual Dominance. It's the best book that I ever written. AV
Let's
seen it, he
go.
know he the only one seen it. So
Let's go.
I'm telling you, it's the fire shit, bro. It's a course book and book combined. So y'all look forward to that and look forward to King of Confidence. If King of Confidence, that's actually a prelude to my CCC series. So we got the Art of Charisma, Master of Conversation. So I actually writ King of Confidence after and made it first because after coaching, I realized that most of you cats don't have this fucking confidence. So I thought it was important to go back and write the book. That way you guys can get the confidence first, boom, then get to the fucking charisma, boom, and then fucking go to the master of conversation. And that's the cover of that book right there, is what we talking right there. So, my man Paul.
yeah, you can find me at the Come On Man podcast. It's on all the major podcast platforms, including YouTube. I have episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. My episodes on Wednesday and Friday are live at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So you can subscribe to me on YouTube and come and watch one of those and sound off in the live chat. That's always fun to do. You can follow me on social media at ComeOnManPod.com. All the links to my socials are there. And then look for my book on Amazon. Should be coming out here in December, called Everything I Wish I Knew When I Was 18.
Cool, cool, man. Well, again, I appreciate you, and then I'll make sure I put the links down in the comment section. One last question, man. What belts you got? Just those
Uh,
two? You got some more? What you got?
well, I've got, so this one's the new Seth Rollins,
Yeah,
big gold belt for WWE. This one's the AEW championship belt. I also have an NWA,
yeah.
old Charlotte.
You know what's funny, bro? Is I hated that belt till I got it. Like I didn't even really want that belt, but I'm just hella OCD. Like I have to have one of each to represent each fucking
Yeah,
territory. I'm just weird like that. So, but when I
yeah.
got it, it made me feel like a 1970s champion. Once I put it over my thing, I felt like a classic or some shit. I don't know.
All the OGs had that belt at some point.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of an important one for the collection. So
And
yeah, I
it's
have that
heavy. It's
one.
it's heavy too.
Yeah, it's 10
Hmm.
pounds of gold. And then I
Yeah.
may or may not still have the World Manosphere Championship. You'll have to buy the pay-per-view to figure out that one.
Hey.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate both of you guys, man.
Peace.
Sending peace, love, and positive energy. Y'all drop a flex in the comment section if y'all like what y'all heard, and also drop what y'all learned. Other than that, man, y'all take care and be
Peace,
easy.
peace, peace,
Peace.
peace.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All good.